Hello and welcome back to Casual Gastronomy, where today we are going to be making Okinawa Soba.
Okinawa Soba is not actually like a soba, it's more of a mix between an udon and a ramen, and it's a nice, warm, comforting meal to eat even on the hot island of Okinawa, which is located in southern Japan.
Before we get started, don't forget to give this video a like if you like it. And without further ado, let's go make some soba. We're going to begin by making our pork broth and simultaneously cooking our pork belly. To start, bring about 4 cups of water up to a boil, then reduce it to a simmer and add in 14 ounces of pork belly, skin on if you can find it, and let it cook for about 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, drain the pot and rinse the pork belly under running water to remove any scum. Then, fill the pot back up with 6 cups of water, bring it up to a boil, then reduce it to a simmer and let it cook for about 1 hour. Check on it every now and then to skim any scum that collects on the surface. We ended up with so much scum. Look at all that scum. Next, we'll make our katsuobushi broth. For this, simply bring 2 cups of water up to a boil, then reduce it to a simmer and add in 1 cup or 10 grams of katsuobushi. Let the broth simmer for just about 15 seconds, then turn the heat off. Next, after 1 hour is up, remove your pork from the broth and set it aside to cool in a covered dish. Then, strain the broth and measure out 4 cups of it. If there's any extra, you can freeze it and use it for other dishes in the future. Now, strain out your katsuobushi broth and combine it with your pork broth in a large pot and bring it up to a simmer. Then, add in 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and 1 tablespoon of sea salt. Give it a taste to see if it's salty enough for you. Once it tastes right, turn the heat off and set it aside while you stew your pork.
Once the pork is cool enough to handle, cut it into strips about 1/4 inch in width. Then, into a skillet, add about 2 tablespoons of Okinawan black sugar, or muscovado sugar if you can find it. Another good substitute is dark brown sugar. Then, add in 2 tablespoons of awamori, a traditional Okinawan liquor, or sake, followed by 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and 2 tablespoons of water. Then, give everything a mix and bring it up to a simmer. Next, add in your pork belly slices, give them a toss, and reduce the heat to low. Pop a lid on and let your pork belly cook for about 25 minutes, flipping every 5 to 10 minutes. Or if by chance you have a Japanese drop lid called an otoshibuta, you can just pop that on and leave it alone for 25 minutes. At the end, the sauce should be mostly evaporated. The last step is to cook your noodles. For this, make sure that you get the Okinawa Soba noodles if possible. They are very similar to dried udon noodles, but they contain egg and the udon noodles do not. Then, simply cook the noodles according to the directions on the packaging, but cook them slightly less than the recommendation so that they can finish cooking in the broth. Once the noodles are ready, pile them into a small mound in the center of your bowl. Then pour in enough broth so that it almost covers the noodles. Then top the bowl with a few slices of the stewed pork belly, thinly sliced scallions, fried fish cakes called Satsuma Age, and red pickled ginger called beni shoga.
Oh, I didn't see you there. We just finished making our Okinawa Soba, and it was not that hard to do.
No, it wasn't. Pretty easy. I think it only took us like 2.5 hours, but that's with filming.
With filming, and most of the time is just waiting for the pork belly to boil, and then waiting for it to stew. But other than that, you're just slicing up the fish cake, boiling the noodles, and boiling the pork belly. There isn't a lot of complicated techniques involved.
Yeah, honestly not a lot. Not a lot of chopping, prepping, not a lot of that.
Probably one of the hardest things is just slicing the scallions. But you should be used to slicing scallions now if you've been following along.
We use it just about every week.
So I was a little worried about the pork belly because any boiled meat just looks so nasty.
Yeah.
It's just like gray and rubbery.
Yeah.
But then when you stew it in that sugar soy sauce, sake mixture, it like regains its color and it looks like a normal pork belly again. So maybe for the future I would consider doing like a version where I bake the pork belly in the oven and use like pork bones to make the broth, but
Yeah.
at least these look great. They look exactly how I imagined they would look.
It does look good. Nice color.
It looks very good, but as for the taste, get some noodles. Woo.
Would you like a little broth?
Yes please. The noodles are nice and salty and flavorful. The broth also has a nice amount of salt to it. It's got a little bit of the pork flavor, a little bit of that fishy katsuobushi flavor.
Yeah.
Now, the part that I've been waiting for.
Pork belly.
The pork belly. Woo. That reminds me of like barbecue.
Yeah. I'm glad the pork belly didn't turn out too tough because like when we use beef and we boil it for an hour, it's so tough.
It gets so tough and dry, but the pork belly, once you stew it, it basically like renders out its fat and like fries itself in its own fat.
Yeah.
And then there's that delicious, that almost molasses-like flavor from the black sugar. This is amazing.
It's really good.
You know, a lot of people, you'll hear around that Okinawans live the longest out of anybody and that they have these super healthy diets. But they eat a lot of pork belly in Okinawa. I'm not even kidding, like pork is the main thing that they eat.
So the key to living a long life is pork belly.
You heard it here first. We have no science to back us up.
No. Any excuse to eat pork belly, honestly.
Basically. So with that recipe was super easy. It takes a little bit of time, but if you have a nice weekend to cook yourself a nice little lunch or dinner and you're feeling like trying something new, because I doubt many of you have tried Okinawa Soba before.
Yeah.
It's a delicious flavor of Japan that I think more people need to discover. There's so many things in Japan that nobody has ever tasted. Nobody outside of Japan, that is. They have tasted it in Japan. Anyways, with that, we will see you guys on the next episode of Casual Gastronomy.